Hello, beautiful person. Do you have this desire to connect with God? To pray and to know that when you're praying, it's just not bouncing off the ceiling? That's something that many of us go through because we try to pray, but we don't just feel as if we're truly connecting with God. And I learned how to pray from I was a child. So I know that there sometimes is a formula to prayer. For example, when I learned how to pray, there was the ACTS method. ACTS. A, adoration. When you enter God's presence, you adore Him. You tell him how much He is good and how much He's worthy and how much you love Him. That's A. C is confession. As you see how He's holy, you realize that you are not as holy as you ought to be. And we have no holiness of ourselves. We have holiness that comes only from God. So that's C. We confess our sins. And then T, that's for thanksgiving. You thank God for all that He has done for you. And then S is supplication. That's where you now begin to pray. And we're not going to God like a Santa Claus where we have this shopping list and we just asking for things. But there are times when we have the need to pray for others. And so I also learned how to do that. And that was called the 5-finger method of prayer, where you start with your thumb, and your thumb represents the people who are closest to you. So you pray for your family, your close friends. Then this finger, that's your pointer finger. Your pointer finger reminds us that we should pray for the people who led us to Jesus Christ, those who are the pastors, the leaders of the church. So close to you, those who led you to Christ. Then this is the tallest finger. And so the tallest finger reminds us that we ought to pray for the government. That's praying for the people who are in leadership in our city. Those who are leading us need our prayers. And then this finger, this is the ring finger on your left hand, or the ring finger is considered to be the weakest finger. If you hold it down and you try to lift up all the other fingers, that's easy. But this ring finger, it just won't lift by itself. Try it. It won't. And then this small finger right here, that reminds us to pray for yourself. You pray for yourself last, because there are so many things that we need to do, but it reminds us that we're not supposed to be selfish. We are here to pray for others. So that's the ACTS, and then for the S, it tells you the 5-finger method. I have known that all my life, but it was not until later that I learned that prayer goes beyond just the formulaic method, where it now is your heart reaches out unto the heart of God. Deep, calling out to deep and asking God, do this. I remember I was attending a church in Virginia Beach, and at the time, the pastor was talking about having prayer meetings every single Wednesday morning, and it just went in one ear, came through the other ear. I'm not really interested in that. And then my wife asked me, she said, Chris, why don't you go to the prayer meeting? No, let me explain. My wife is a night person. She is not one who is going to go to prayer meetings at 6 o'clock in the morning. And that's what she was asking me to do. But I said, why? And she said, because they need you there. No, I didn't consider myself any great prayer person. So when she said they need you there, I decided, okay. So I went to this first prayer meeting. And when I went, there were about 12 people from the church in a semicircle, and they were praying. And there was one person at the keyboard. He was just singing and worshiping. And when I sat down, I experienced something deep inside of me, and I just started to bawl. And I don't know why I was crying like that, but I understood that God was doing something in me. And I realized that God's Spirit was giving me the burden to pray. Do you have that burden to pray? The burden to pray for God to move in the society? If you want to have that burden, it's very simple. Ask God for it. Sometimes we think we can only ask God for the big things, or we can only ask God for things that concern us and our families. But God is sometimes calling us and saying, I want you to have a burden to see me move in society. I want you to have that deep crying out, because there is the need for revival around the world. And God might just be calling you. He might just be calling you to be that intercessor, that person who will cry out to him and say, God, I need you to move on behalf of my family, on behalf of my city, on behalf of my country, and on behalf of the world. I want to encourage you today. Be someone who will seek God, not just for your own situation, but also for your city. Subscribe to this channel and we will help you to understand ways that you can learn how to pray and ways that you can learn how to seek God. Walk good.